All right, you got about 5 seconds, Nancy.
Welcome everyone to Chapter Connect. So excited to have a big audience tonight for this absolutely amazing lineup of our special speakers from the New York area. You know, I'd love to take credit for having all of these people lined up. We've got some really unique talents here, but I have to throw that credit to Ann Passer, who has curated another spectacular program for us tonight. And because we have a tight timeline and a lot of speakers with some fascinating details to cover, I'm going to keep my introduction really short for each one of these guys because they're going to speak for themselves. So I'm going to start off with none other than Ken Lacovara. Ken is an Explorers Club medalist, so the highest honor that the Explorers Club gets. And so he is the first one off the bench tonight. He's an American paleontologist and geologist at Rowan University. He's known for the discovery of the Titanosaurian dinosaur, Dreadnoughtus. So Ken, this is all yours. Take it away. Ken, you're still on mute, I believe.
All right, there we go. And I'm going to share my screen, and then 4 continents, 4 dinosaurs, 4 minutes. Go. So, Sahara Desert. Spent a good amount of time working in the Egyptian Sahara in the Bahariya Oasis, which is basically nowhere, halfway between the Mediterranean and Sudan, halfway between Libya and the Nile. During the Cretaceous period, the last of the time of the dinosaurs, sea level was very high, and it inundated what is now Egypt, and there was actually a mangrove coast there. And we found a very huge dinosaur, which I named Paralotitan, which means tidal giant. And Paralotitan, you can see here, it's rather huge. And at the time, that was the second largest dinosaur known. Gobi Desert. Spent some time there with my Chinese colleagues and some friends from the University of Pennsylvania. We went up to the desert outside of Jiaguan, right here, and discovered this new species of giant plant-eating dinosaur, which we named Sujosaurus. 17 feet tall, has a pot belly, a beak rather than teeth in the front, these big 3-foot Edward Scissorhand claws, and it's a plant eater, but it's a plant eater in the group of meat-eating dinosaurs. So it's a plant-eating theropod dinosaur, which is very, very strange. We published this in 2007. Then we went over to this mountain area, which is on the flanks of the Kilian Shan, right next to the Taklamakan Desert. And we found a number of these bird fossils in a 95 million year old shale. It's a species known as Gansus humanensis, and this helped us resolve a 40 million year gap in the evolution of birds. And this animal was really surprisingly modern. If you're not an ornithologist, you could probably see this thing in a pond today and not really notice it as anything strange. Patagonia, I spent about 10 years working down in Patagonia in the southernmost part of Argentina there, between Lago Viedma and Lago Argentino. Saw Andean condors every day, saw El Chaltén every day. And there in 2004, I discovered this dinosaur there. I'm laying there next to the tibia of a dinosaur that I would later name Dreadnoughtus. There's the skeleton emerging from the rock. You can see the big tail wrapping around me there. Here's the hip from here to here, one femur, here's a vertebra. These ribs, which are already extracted, were about 20 feet long. And for a lot of the time, we didn't have any mechanized gear, so I hired a couple of gauchos, and we would jacket the bones in burlap and plaster, pad out sleds with prairie grass, and drag them out of the desert with horses like this. There's a reconstruction of Dreadnoughtus, which means fears nothing, because when you're 65 tons, what have you to fear? Dreadnoughtus was the mass of 13 African elephants, the mass of 9 T-Rex, and about 10 tons heavier than a Boeing 737. And the last stop, one of the best places for dinosaur paleontology in the world, is New Jersey. The world's first nearly complete dinosaur skeleton found in New Jersey, the world's first tyrannosaur found in New Jersey. And right now I'm working at this site, which is about 20 minutes south of Philadelphia, that has this amazing end of the Cretaceous deposit. It actually has the last moments of the dinosaurs preserved there. We've recovered over 50,000 fossils from this excavation so far. This is some of them laid out in their map position. We did this for a NOVA special. And these lovely people, Jeanne and Rikhterman, have donated $35 million to help us build an $80 million museum, which will open its doors almost exactly 2 years from today. If you'd like to know more, you can check out my TED Talk or my book, Why Dinosaurs Matter. And there's 4 dinosaurs in 4 minutes. Thank you.
Wow, Ken, that was amazing that you could fit all of that into 4 minutes. You know, I guess that's one of the things I love about New Yorkers is you guys talk so fast. You can get a lot of information in a very short period of time. I know we're going to circle back to you with questions, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. Ken, thank you so much. I will ask one question right now, though, while I have your attention. Apparently, you're sitting in a very unique setting, and we might get to hear a little something.
I'm actually sitting at my drum set. I've been playing drums all my life. And on June, what's the date, Ann? 22nd? 21st?
21st.
21st.
The summer solstice.
We'll be having a musical event virtually from the Explorers Club.
Excellent. A man of many talents. Thank you, Ken. We'll come back to you with some questions in just a bit. Our next speaker, and you know what? I don't think I introduced myself. Did I say that my name is Nancy McGee and I'm the VP of Chapters? So I guess I've got really big shoes to fill because Tim Gradke is very comfortable behind the camera here. And I certainly have done my share of Zooms in the last year. But anyway, I'll get the hang of this pretty soon. Our next speaker is Peter Lenahan, who has been caving for 20 years and has caved in many places around the world. Peter was part of a multinational project to document the caves of Myanmar. So Peter, would you tell us more about that, please?
Of course I will. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So before I go to the caves of Myanmar, Anne asked me to mention the Exploration Merit Badge that we run at the club. And we've been running this for 3 years or 4 years, and we're still looking for speakers and counselors. The event will be held in person again at the club at the end of the year in October. So I'll just move forward now. Oops. So this year, or actually it was last year, it was just before the pandemic problem started. I flew into the capital of Myanmar, which is Yangon, and we started the survey project of many caves in the country. This is an ongoing effort by a whole team of international people that will document most of the cave. Well, the project is now on pause, obviously, because of the situation in Myanmar, but it was intended to work with the government of Myanmar to document all the caves that were known before they get destroyed. And so for those of you who don't know where Myanmar is, it's next to Thailand and below China. And the capital where I was actually one of the cities that was first hit with the infection of COVID. Yangon is the capital. So we're off to survey some caves. And what we're going to do is we're going to head east closer to the Thailand border. And with this geology map, you could see here in the pink, these are mountains that are limestone, and that's where caves exist. The cave project is a multi-year project, and this is what was going on over different years, and it stopped at this point. But the goal was to produce these cave maps, and these were known caves that often monks had set up temples inside of, and these temples were really quite elaborately decorated. So we have a team of cavers that are from Myanmar, United States, India, and England, and Myanmar and Thailand. So it's an amazing team. It was I hooked up through a man in Germany, organized the project with the Myanmar government, and this British team let me join their expedition. So a lot of the caves have these wonderful little Buddhist decorations in them, and but not everywhere is covered by the Buddhist decorations. A lot of the places are crawling passages and places where there's still a floodplain going on. But we're basically just doing the survey work to make sure these things are known about before they're destroyed. Now, they were being destroyed because the Chinese government is buying cement from Myanmar. And Myanmar is literally destroying these mountains for limestone. So they're really very pretty. This one was actually quite full of bats. And it was a very pretty cave. The lighting here is near the entrance of the cave because you don't really have great photographs inside the cave. These were quite high to climb up sometimes, but fortunately, I didn't have to do much rope work. It was mainly just walk-in caves. So they had some nice formations. The monks that access these caves had sometimes they built these ladders. The ladders were rather flimsy at times, and there were multiple ladders that went up, a few hundred feet into the air in steps. Now, I want to mention about this man, Martin Ellis. Martin Ellis actually was the caver that produced the cave map for the cave tie rescue that happened last year. And Martin's a very humble man, very sweet man, and he's got 4 books on caving. And here you see him doing a little sketch of one of those little maps that you saw at the beginning of the presentation. And Nor Wind is the woman next to him is our translator, but she also has a PhD in anthropology, and she discovered some Neolithic tools in a cave nearby, but she didn't have a lot of caving experience, and she wanted to learn about caving. How am I doing on time?
You're okay,
Yes.
Peter.
Yep.
Okay.
You're fine.
So I didn't draw the maps. I helped with the survey, but Martin is an excellent cartographer. He draws beautiful, beautiful maps. And these caves are in these mountains that just pop up out of the rice fields. And they're very, very old. And they were formed when this area of the world was down by Antarctica about 350 million years ago. One more thing is that these people are very, very rural farmers. Everything is done by hand. Here you see a man making bricks. And when we left this cave, we ran into this family. This house has no electricity, no running water. They're just rice farmers. And that was it. If I had 10 or 20 more minutes, I'd go on with more presentation, but there was a problem with the water, and I'll cover that in another story. I think I'll give my 4 minutes up at this point. I'm sorry, guys. I'd like to do more. Go ahead.
Go ahead and tell us about the problem with the water.
Oh, you're aware that Myanmar is a military dictatorship, and the military, one of the generals had decided to make cement out of these mountains, and they were literally ripping apart the mountains at this time, creating a huge ecological disaster because they were using coal to fire the limestone to make the cement. When they brought the coal in, they dumped it on the ground, and they dumped it on the ground on top of a bunch of soil, which was laterite. And laterite contains nickel, cadmium, aluminum, and iron. The monsoons came, put the coal in 4 feet of water. The sulfur and the mercury leached out of the coal into the water table, and they polluted the water table for 80,000 people. This water is black, and if you drink it, you get these rashes, and you get horrible, horrible pain, rashes all over your body, as well as internal rashes, where here you see a liver from a fish that was pulled out of the river, and the black spots are all just from the pollution in the water table. And that family had asked us to bring water from the other side of the river where the water was good. So that's just a very short-term solution. So what I thought I would do was build a water filter. So here's my elaborate blueprint plan. Charcoal and sand, you put it together, you get carbon. Carbon pulls out a lot of things from the water. There's my parts list, which I put together. I don't have a car. I don't speak the language, but I know how to build a water filter. It's really simple. What I did have was the high school that Nor Wind, the woman with the PhD, she taught at the high school. And I had a lot of kids. So let's go back one. So the kids broke up the charcoal, which we bought from some local person. They make the charcoal themselves. They We cleaned the sand with water and chlorine, and I put together the filter, which was activated charcoal, which is used in fish tanks, a layer of cotton on top of that, and it put inside of a bottle, which actually used to be cooking oil, and put a hose out of it. And we built this water tank that filters the water quite well. And then I sent the water out for testing. The testing actually produced this blue column. It did change all the chemical properties of the water. However, they didn't use it to drink with. They just used it to wash with, which stopped the itching problem. But in doing this water testing, I created another problem, is that the man that went to pick up the results from the government that night, he was a bunch of army people came to his house to arrest him because now I was challenging the general. And unfortunately, he had to flee the country. This was before the coup happened, because he was had a arrest warrant for taking water samples. And that's it. I had done a couple of projects in Laos, and these are nice little awards I got, which I can't read, but they're also for water projects in Laos. And that's about the end of it. Thank you very much. I went over my time. I'm sorry.
Oh, Peter, that was fascinating. Thank you so much for being prepared for that question. And I know that there's going to be others that will ask things about that. So I appreciate that so much.
A lengthy report is available for the trip if anybody wants to see a 40 or 50 page report. Thanks.
Thank you. And you know, the great thing about this Chapter Connect is that we've got so many people around the world that are connecting both live and then later in recordings, that I'm sure that there will be a number of chapters that will reach out to you, say, hey, we want you to be a speaker for us. So thank you for doing that. Now, our next presenter is Pamela Peeters, who is an award-winning environmental economist and sustainability strategist who consults with companies globally and develops educational programs for youth with her Eco Hero program, now established in 10 countries. An author, filmmaker, and educator, she was on the marketing team of U.S. partnerships for UNESCO for the UNESCO Decade for Sustainable Education, and produced and hosted our Planet TV show from 2001 to 2007. Pamela, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nancy, and the previous speakers. I will hope to be as informative and inspiring. And I would say, here we go. I am going to share my screen and then begin the brief slideshow that I created. Yes, so today is a Chapter Connect. Thanks, Anne, for inviting me to present. I'm a fellow to the club, and just 3 bullet points to set the stage. You don't understand sometimes what you do when you're young. It's only later that I understood the importance that I basically launched my first environmental magazine when I was 12 years old. And that was called, in my native language, I'm born in Belgium, Grabbelgroen, which means grab the green. And I was already writing at that time about how to recycle methane in farms. My goodness, if the world would have listened at that time, we would be in a different era. But I guess momentum is now. So let's get going on this presentation. How did I gain my knowledge? I studied quite a bit. I have a master's in applied economic sciences from the Vrije Universiteit Brussel, again, Belgium. Another master's from the French-speaking university that was in environmental management, because I graduated with the first thesis of sustainable development. But if I really wanted to become an expert, I also needed to understand Mother Earth, her ecosystems, her needs, and her opportunities for humanity. Then I have a fellowship from Columbia University and one again from the University of Brussels. So many years later, thank you for contributing to the field of sustainable development. Let's talk TV. I made a jump to Manhattan in 1999 because I understood the power of media and I wanted to accelerate the understanding of sustainability. So I said, hey, let's make a TV show, zero experience. Who cares? You'll learn. And at that time, baby steps. Right now, I'm behind a camera, I edit, I make documentaries. So it's good to learn while on the road. Our Planet TV might ring a bell for you guys. It took the BBC 18 years later, a show with the same name aired. And I'm not shy about that, saying that actually at this point in my life. I produced and hosted the show for 6 years. And now I don't know how to go to my next slide. So let's see how that goes. I am screen sharing. Maybe stop sharing, because that doesn't really go to my next page. Let's see, I am not really seeing. I should just continue this way then, I guess, to my second, or is Kevin helping me out?
That's me. You can just go ahead and say next slide.
Great. Yeah, next slide. Excellent. Thanks so much. What do I do? The main message is really to inspire people to help protect and restore the ecosystems, the environment. I'm also a catalyst for youth to turn them into eco-heroes, get them the knowledge about Mother Earth, and then put them to work, because you learn again better when you are doing something in the field. How do I go about these things? TV, books, radio, exhibits, museum programs, workshops, curriculum for youth. I also help companies expand their operations within the green and social economy, and then campaigns. The current campaign is the Eco Hero Challenge. What my motto is also, I am not unique. You do not need many degrees. It's just open your heart, find a connectivity, and do something. And that will automatically change your life, your mindset. And next slide, please. Some of the milestones, some of the club members might recognize Dr. Martin Nuia in the 3 little medallions. I think the milestone is that I'm really also sustainable and organic as a woman. I find it very important to not to just do a one momentum. So for example, we went on an expedition to the Arctic. We brought home the science. We did presentations at the Explorers Club. Martin brought an exhibit to the Smithsonian Museum. That's Jane O'Brien from the BBC World at the opening. I helped consult, and my videos and photos are also a part of the exhibit. And then a first scientific paper is coming out in Arctic, and a graphic novel. You'll see the cover later on. So data can be used for many, many opportunities. And I just have fun with it in being productive and using media. I also have a YouTube channel with about 70 videos. You also recognize other club members, Galen Rosenwax, phenomenal lady, explorer, diver. I think I'm short of adjectives. And then of course, Bertrand Piccard, who's a personal friend of mine. You also see him in a master class. The fun part about being a part of the Explorers Club, you have the best of people to tap into. Next slide, please. Here, what do other people say? Well, the former head of the Federal Council for Sustainable Development is basically the body that has to develop the tools for sustainability, the mainstreaming in Belgium. I have the best of both worlds. Here's to the European people who are watching. Our education is stellar, but then again, I'm a very go-getter. Both my father and my grandfather worked for American multinationals, might have influenced me. So I am a hybrid model. I call myself a Euro-American. And then the EAC is the the Environmental Educational Advisory Council for folks in New York who want to do more with teachers. That is the club to belong to as well. I'm a member for more than 20 years. And a lady of the steering committee is pretty excited that I joined. I don't only talk, I also write for the newsletter. And it's a fun club to be a part of. the cover of the Reader's Digest. I had no idea I was considered a green angel. For people who resonate with that, there I am with a different little hairdo than today, but I find it pretty cute to show that. One of the articles I'm most proud of is Wide Wall magazine. It's a magazine for artists. They featured 2 examples of my photography, and the title is Changing Thought Systems. I believe the true momentum of a sustainable paradigm can only happen when humanity changed their mindset about the planet, about their relationship with the planet. And I'll get a little bit further down the line. I'll give you more information about that. And then it shows my art shows that I do as well. Next slide. Here, this is some fun stuff. So this is basically what I wanted to share with you. The era of conscious exploration is here. And it's really about connecting with Mother Earth. For people from South America, Pachamama might be resonating more with you. This is the cover of the graphic novel. You see the narwhal, you see Dr. Nuia as Dr. Narwhal, and you see me ride a magical unicorn. Why is it important to connect consciously with Mother Earth and her energy? Because that's when inspiration hits you. Look on the right, this is Pond Inlet. First time, I think it was Explorers Club Flag 97. First night, actually there is no night because it's daytime the whole day along. When you go in August, July, the sun doesn't really set. So what do? You go outside and you take photos. I saw this ice block, little, you know, the inner child wanted to play and have some fun. I think there are many more explorers out there who have that same vibe as me. And bang, that was a part of my story that I created. I'm a writer. So suddenly there is a magical iceberg that changes into something else. The photo on the left also is part of the Smithsonian Museum collection. These are little, it's cotton, it's suputi in Inuktitut. And what I do when I take photograph, I level to the level of the plant or the animal, and that creates a whole different perspective. And in my graphic novel, I made these suputi or Arctic cotton become alive, and it just expanded in the first book in a graphic novel. So the fun part is you consciously connect with something, then automatically your inspiration will expand. So that's just a little tip for explorers who might not really think about bridging the energy of Mother Earth with themselves. And then underneath you see the—
Okay, hang on, Pamela. I'm going to have to cut you off right there, as much as I hate to do this.
Okay,
move on.
The last slide. If you just can do the last slide, that's the narwhal exhibit in Greenland coming up. Next slide, that's just a gravy. Kevin, the last one is for the Q&A. So here's just yeah, that's it, the last one.
All right.
So
Thanks, Pamela. That graphic novel looks like it's really exciting, and what a great way to hook kids and adults for that matter. That's super.
Thank you.
All right. So our next presenter is Alexander Rikhterman, who is an award-winning expedition documentary filmmaker and a corporate video producer. And I know he's got a lot for us, so I'm going to turn it over to Aleks.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for putting this together, Nancy and Kevin. And I'll start off with sharing my presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to become a documentary filmmaker. And for me, it started off as a justification for escapism. So in 2013, I was 3 years into an economics major, but I knew that something was off. I needed to do something else in life. And how do I do that? How do I justify that? How do I pay my bills? And how do I really be truthful to who I am as a person and who I want to do? So just do it. In 2013, I started traveling during my college winter and summer breaks around the world and made a YouTube travel show called The Solo Traveler's Guide to the World. Through that vehicle, I was able to learn how to operate the camera, learn how to tell stories, and basically start my filmmaking career. And then in 2015, I won the first place Emmy by the Television Academy Foundation College Television Awards for my work. that was sort of a vindication or a justification of my decision to pursue what I really want to do, to pursue my passion. But what's the next step? The next step is to do more work, find out how I can become a better filmmaker, a better storyteller. And I did that through producing more work, freelance work, and through the Explorers Club. And so from 2015 on, I traveled to Trinidad and Tobago as a shooter. In 2016, I did Adventure Canada's Young Explorer program as part of the first class. In 2017, I climbed Kilimanjaro with a group called Peaks for Prosperity. They're a nonprofit. I did their docs. In 2018, I went with Peter Lenahan to do his flag expedition there to survey more caves. In 2019, I went with Joshua Powell to Kyrgyzstan to do a Nat Geo supported documentary about the working conditions of wildlife rangers there. And so throughout all of this, my goalposts kept on moving forward. I was always balancing producing long-term goals versus bills. I pursued tangential activities like scuba diving and rock climbing, and became a member of like-minded groups like the Explorers Club and like Video Consortium. And so what's my next project? Hopefully that'll take me to the next step of my career, and I'll let Kevin play that.
My name is Alexander Rikhterman, and I'm an explorer. I've told stories of the high Arctic, climbed Kilimanjaro, mapped out 100-foot-high cliffside caves in Southeast Asia, and studied the working conditions of wildlife rangers in Kyrgyzstan. The origins of these expeditions started here, at the bar of the famed Explorers Club, an almost spiritual place where curiosity is personified in the adventurous, the bold, those that pursue the unknown, and more importantly, bring back what they've discovered. It's only fitting my next expedition will explore my roots as a Ukrainian and take me to another bar, the bar at the end of the world. Ukraine's Antarctic Research Station Vernadsky has clandestine origins from World War II.
The actual purpose was to establish a permanent presence in Antarctica to defend Britain's territorial claim.
And was first established as a British meteorological research site. Over the years, it has been host to hundreds of explorers and scientists on a mission to better understand our planet. Another covert station operation was the construction of the world's southernmost bar in 1980.
Well, the famous bar at Faraday Station was a bar that should never have been built.
The materials, originally meant for another structure, were repurposed for Faraday Bar. While the carpenter was let go for his reappropriation, the bar remains an integral part of station life. Later, in 1996, the site was sold to the Ukrainian Antarctic Program for £1 sterling and was renamed to Antarctic Station Academic Vernadsky. Since then, research at the site has expanded to include terrestrial and marine biologies.
А вот как раз жизнь в Антарктиде в основном сконцентрирована именно в океане или на его берегу.
Glaciology, and continued the world's longest-running dataset on Antarctic atmospheric readings. This is the story of Vernadsky Station, and all those who have called it home. Welcome to the bar at the end of the world.
So I am building my filmmaking team now, and then in February of 2022 through March of 2022, I'll be down there for 2 months filming that documentary. And thanks to Otter dry suits, I'll also be scuba diving in that water and filming Ukrainian marine biologists as they're doing their work.
Wow. You know, Aleks, as a filmmaker, I always struggle with trying to find some hook to get your audience. And the idea of using the bar as your hook to tell a really involved story that centers on science is very creative. I can't wait to see that and enjoy the diving there. I've done the same thing and jumped in, not exactly in that location, but wow, it's a little on the chilly side.
Yeah, I'm definitely preparing for it.
Good deal. All right. Well, thank you, Aleks. That was fantastic. Our next presenter is Renata Rojas, originally from Mexico. She's got a passion for the deep ocean and particularly shipwrecks. She began diving at age 12 and is now a technical diver who's been all over the world. Renata has been fascinated with the RMS Titanic since before it was found, and she's been dreaming about being able to visit its resting place. She's finally scheduled to take part on an expedition this June to photograph and document the shipwreck. Welcome, Renata.
Thank you, Nancy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you to everybody. I'm going to share my screen here if I can. My name is Renata. I'm originally from Mexico. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for everybody for organizing this. As Nancy mentioned, I am a diver, scuba diver, technical diver, ice diver, cave diver. Been a member of the Explorers Club as an associate member at the beginning. Now I'm a full member, and as a result of my being a member, I've been able to get on several expeditions. So thank you for that, for being to the club. I've been in various expeditions and activities. I've done the Vomit Comet, for example. I did the centrifuge on Nastar. I was part of the Setna Epic expedition to the Arctic to educate children in the Arctic about ocean change. I participated in a dive on a submersible to the Britannic, which is the sister ship of Titanic, with Richie Kohler. I went to Bell Island in Newfoundland to document the shipwrecks there, and dove the Andadoria. It was a series of things that the Explorers Club allows you to do. I've been obsessed with Titanic ever since before they found it. When they found it, my dreams kind of crumbled to be able to find it. I've been collecting articles and books over the years, dreaming of going. I was scheduled to go with the Mears in 2011, and that expedition got postponed and then ultimately canceled. Again, my dreams crumbled. But in 2015, I found OceanGate. OceanGate is a private submersible company that allows citizen scientists to be fully involved in expeditions. It's a unique way of doing expeditions because they make you part of the crew. They train you on all aspects of the submersible, and you're an active participant of the expedition and the documenting of history, basically. They have two subs. Well, we have three. Antipodes, which is not pictured here. They have Cyclops 1, which is pictured right below the Andadoria. We went to the Andadoria, and then Titan, which is the one that we're going to be taking to Titanic, which is their newest submersible. They have several other expeditions coming, not only Titanic, and I'm going to show you a video on Titanic, very short, it's a minute long. They're going to go to the Hudson Canyon. They're going to go to the Bahamas. They're even thinking of going to Croatia. If you want to get involved in any of these expeditions, find them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well, and you should be able to know how to get involved. Now, a little video, if I can. See if I can do this. Yeah, I can. A little video on Titanic. Here we go.
Renata, is this the YouTube link?
Yes.
All right, I'll steal from you here. We can't see it. I'll play it.
Okay.
An international team of researchers, dive experts, and citizen explorers are An international team of researchers, dive experts, and citizen explorers are preparing to embark on the Titanic survey expedition.
Heading to target, 12 degrees.
An epic voyage to the world's most famous shipwreck. This is a rare opportunity for you to explore Titanic as an actual member of the expedition crew.
We are taking scans of the wreck
to help survey a wreck that fewer than 200 people have seen. To witness the ravages of time and pressure.
Position is on the bow. Over.
To film and photograph, and to document scientific research. What has decay revealed inside the hull? have shifting sands exposed artifacts in the nearly unexplored debris field? What will your dive team discover? Join the crew of the Titanic survey expedition and help add to Titanic's legacy before she is gone forever.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Renata. I'm envious as all get out. Good for you. Our next speaker, Simon Wong, is a competitive triathlete, duathlete, and competed as a member of Team USA in the ITU World Championship age group races since 2016. In his triathlon journey, he completed 15 full Ironman triathlons. Simon, tell us all about that, please.
Hi guys. First of all, honored to be on this panel. As I'm listening to other panelists talking about their stories, I can just keep listening. I'm pretty sure I can listen for them for hours. And I actually found some commonality points of my journey. I actually want to talk about my journey to be from no mountaineering experience to actually have some decent mountaineering experience right now, and how it actually worked while able to maintain my full-time daytime job. So that's why I call it seasoned mountaineering. So to begin with, like Nancy has just, introduced, I never really have mountaineering experience. I started as a triathlete. I didn't really get into mountaineering until about 5.5 years ago. And that's when my client partner and I decided to, hey, let's go to Kilimanjaro and let's just climb the mountain. So we did that mountain, and we were like, okay, now this is the so-called the tallest mountain in Africa. That's one of the 7 summits. Let's maybe creating some goal. So really parallel to what Aleks mentioned earlier about moving the goalpost from initially just one mountain to like, okay, let's just do 7 summits. So we start with Kilimanjaro, and then we just start going to the next one, Mount Elbrus, and then we do Kosciuszko, and then we did Aconcagua, and then obviously we still have some more planning to do to finish the 3 more to go, including Delani, Everest, etc. But at the end of the day, as we move on to this journey, we also start thinking about a bigger goal. Obviously, the 7 summits, like, okay, what we're going to do afterwards, right? So we start thinking about, okay, what about the Explore Grand Slam, right? And Explore Grand Slam, obviously, has the 7 summits and also the North Pole and the South Pole. And we are also thinking about so there are people who actually, have speed record, have different type of style to accomplish the Explore Grand Slam, but we really want to do a more meaningful way, being a seasoned mountaineering, is that, in Antarctica, obviously there is a huge history behind that. So we're thinking maybe we can do some research projects out from that, maybe looking at, how the US involvement, back in the day, from creating the station, including from the McMurdo Sound to the South Pole stations, and then eventually with the US involvement, because of that, there's Antarctica Treaty. So we are still in the midst of, creating that project. But what I want to emphasize is the journey that I have been undergone, with my client partner together, it's really from just kind of just do it. A lot of time, people, think that, to jump into a specific new thing such as mountaineering require, a lot of preparation, which it is, a lot of the, the experience, which also is, but with enough planning and also, with the guts, to really just do it, you can really able to start, going from 0 to something. And I also want to emphasize that in mountaineering, it has been start discussing in the last 1 or 2 years is about the diversity and inclusiveness, because mountaineering is not cheap as well, because you have to buy all the gears, on top of that, pay for the travel, etc. So, part of our message is being a seasoned mountaineer, say, hey, how to maintain, your full-time job so that you can, somewhat able to, balance out, your income, while able to figure out, a cost-effective way to do all the different type of mountaineering. So I don't have a presentation to show, our summit, etc. But I hope the message, about our season mountaineering is like, number one, yes, you can do it. Number two is like, we need to have more diversity in the mountaineering community. And number three is like, very similar to some of the past, presenter just mentioned about, like having the goalpost, and then the just do it mentalities.
That's outstanding. I love that just do it mentality. That's great. Thank you, Simon. Our last presenter is Jeanne Wilcke, who is a longtime climate emergency activist. Recent volunteering focuses on reducing the carbon footprint of New York City buildings. The paths to exploration are often unexpected, and she calls these her incidental expeditions. So Jeanne, would you tell us about incidental expeditions, please?
Okay, thank you. Often when we hear about exploration, it's the highs and the lows, from the highs of Mount Everest to the lows of the Mariana Trench. But in between, there are the small, unexpected paths to exploration and knowledge, and I call these my incidental explorations. And it started with me being invited to Easter Island to an archaeoastronomy expedition. On Easter Island, I noted a large amount of the roaming dog population. And curious as I am, I kept noting, what their colors were, what their features were, but then I was noting their health conditions. And in a small amount of the population, I saw the existence of different degrees of mange, which, if not treated, results in open sores and can eventually cause sepsis and kill a dog. And I had antibacteria ointments with me and treated a few dogs with some of their sores, but that was not the solution nor the best way. And I said, I need professional help. And I coordinated with one of the few local vets on the island with one particular dog, with pictures of the dog, so they knew which dog it was out of the hundreds of dogs, to treat the dog for the mange. So fast forward, a year later, I'm going with mostly the same group on another archaeoastronomy expedition to Micronesia, and to an area which is about 5 degrees, for those who don't know, 5 degrees north of the equator and in the middle of the Pacific. And by the way, the Federated States of Micronesia have as a side note, a US zip code. Interesting fact. So before I went on the expedition, I said, I'm going to be frustrated again because I'm going to get there and there's probably going to be animals there that I can not even help, even if it's a temporary solution. So I started investigating Micronesia, dogs, etc. So I got a wealth of information on Micronesia, but no information really on vet care availability and the dog population. So I set up on an email chain going from somebody who rescued herds of llamas who lives in New Jersey and has them on her farm to her contacting me with the major vet of a zoo, and on. And I went even to the Cook Islands to the rescue places there. So I was all around the world getting information. And back to New York, I had a whole list of medications that were, nobody had been to Micronesia that I had talked to, but they had an idea of what I might need. So in speaking to my local vet, I said, look, I need prescriptions for this stuff. These, you can't buy these over the counter. And told him what I was doing. And I had a budget to buy a certain amount. They're expensive, these medications. And wouldn't you know, the vet through the animal hospital decided to donate me all these medications, and probably 5 times more than I would have bought. And one of the manufacturers of a medication even threw extras in. So there I carried off and went to Micronesia. Now, as part of the expedition, I was in my backpack every day, handing out wherever I could along the way and meeting people. And I've done this now more than a few times on different expeditions or trips. And I, through the archaeoastronomy and learning about Micronesia by investigating the dogs, I became very interested in the ancient sites and how they were associated with the giant sacred eel and eels themselves. So I went on a solo expedition the next year back to Micronesia with my bags of medications again. And but the most interesting thing is, how does this tie in and intertwine with exploration and knowledge? Yes, I learned a lot about dogs and medications and things like that. It led me down many different rabbit holes like that. But what was the most interesting, and I say incidental part of all this, is that it led me to connecting with the local and indigenous people. But the dogs were the conduit. They were the tool. And then I would get people saying, oh, maybe I can connect you to the elder of the Lassalop clan, who are the eel clan on the island of Ponape in Micronesia. Or somebody would say, oh, I know somebody who has a stream near their house with lots of eels. Let me make an appointment and introduce you. So all through this, I was meeting local people, and my expedition on eels became so much better because of the dogs and the medication I was bringing and the contacts that I got because of it. So I say that the dogs were pivotal to my expedition, and that incidental expeditions can be in between that high and low of Everest to deep into the Mariana Trench. So thank you.
Jeanne, what a great connection to be connecting dogs with exploration like that. And, you know, the thing that I've heard from every one of you is all about passion. So that, you know, that shows through in everything that you're talking about. Simon in your training, Aleks in your filmmaking. I mean, everybody has got a passion for what they're doing, and you're putting one foot in front of the other and finding a way to make it happen despite a lot of obstacles. So that's great. Thank you guys for sharing all of that. I'm going to turn it over to Anne, who I know has some questions coming in from the audience. So Anne, do you want to join us with what you've got written in? I know we've got some things, some folks writing in on Facebook as well as on Zoom.
Right. And we have people also on YouTube. So we have questions coming in from all over. And one of the first ones was for Simon. Is that a penguin behind you?
Yes, it is. It's actually a penguin that I got from one of the investor group called the Unreasonable Group. They actually invest in impactful companies to try to help the world, and they believe in this, you know, you can do good while being profitable. And part of that group, you know, they sent every single investor a gigantic penguin. So I just leave it up there.
So on another note, Simon, there was an article in the New York Times, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, about people that have been climbing the summits, and they say that they've reached the summits, but they really haven't. Have you read that article, and do you have anything to add to it, or what's your feeling on it?
I have not read that article, but I'm not surprised, you know, like, because, you know, like, it's just a human emotion, I think, you know, like, because when people climb a mountain, they have objective. We call in mountaineering, we call objective, right? You know, like, that we want to reach to that point, you know, especially for expedition that lasts, you know, several weeks or even months, you know, when they don't reach for that, then there's an emotion to say that, okay, you know, I want to prove to the world that I've climbed it, you know, like, just like in any sport, right? You know, even in triathlon, you have people who say, you know, hey, you know, I've done this type of training, you know, or whatsoever, but then, you know, but then that doesn't match up. Or even people who run marathon, it's like, how can that person be that fast? But then you track the GPS, it's not there, you know, like, so I'm not surprised that, you know, because mountaineering in some cases is sport.
Thank you. We have a question from Luna, and this is for Pamela. How do you manage your cash flow in a creative career that there are highs and lows often financially?
Oh, well, that's a very, very good question. Savings. When I mentioned I was 12 when I launched my first magazine, when I was also 12 when I started babysitting. I've been working nonstop, summer jobs at 16, saving money, because Manhattan is definitely not, I would say, for the faint of heart financially. My weekly budget in the beginning for food was $20 in Chinatown. Bicycle to Chinatown. When I was at Columbia, I biked on high heels in a two-piece suit. I'm still European. So basically, it's first limiting your expenses. Be very, very slow on your expenses. Then I also had a second TV show called Styling the New World that was on a bigger channel, and I bought airtime. And basically I found private investors to invest in a whole, special 28-minute piece that would propel their businesses, that was gonna be, like a little postcard. So then you can have sufficient margins and make sure that you don't pay too much rent. And then you just have to keep on pounding until you make the bigger bucks. But it's really invest in yourself first, because then there's no strings attached. You are your own boss, so to speak. But it goes both ways. Limit your expenses, be very wise on how you're gonna make revenue stream. Thank you very much. But eventually the break will come. Effectively so, thanks to products that I then launched. And that's really just a numbers game then. But I also would say, believe in yourself. The most important thing is to believe in yourself and to follow your heart, fueled, as Nancy said, by passion. And that is a winning combo.
Thank you, Pamela. Our next question is for Renata. And let's see, that is, give me a minute here. Rory is asking, Renata, what is the part of the Titanic that you are most looking forward to seeing?
Well, I get that question a lot. I cannot answer that. I want to see the whole thing. I don't have a favorite part. I'm not one of those that is enamored with the bow. I really just want to be there. That's my goal.
So we have another question for you, and that's just to learn a little bit more about Ocean Gate. And I know that quite a few people from the club are going on the expedition with you. Could you explain about some of the different jobs that these people will be having on the expedition, so that some people will be going diving and some people will be doing different things, so that people will know what's available to them for them to do in the future?
Well, the expedition is a combination of scientists, researchers, experts on the Titanic. Obviously, it's the first time I go. People that are listening, Rory being one of them, has been to the Titanic I don't know how many times, so they're more of an expert than me. So they have a group of specialists or experts on Titanic and researchers that will be there with us in the expedition. And then you have the crew on the mission specialists, which are the citizen scientists that will be taking dives in the submersible down to Titanic and taking different positions inside the sub and outside the sub. And they have, in their website, they have the whole list, but they have a sonar scan, a person that does all the sonar scans, a person that does the communication, somebody that will help with communication and tracking, documentation of the shipwreck. And then when you get off the submersible, then you also have a support role outside the sub while somebody else is diving inside the sub, which requires, kind of follows on the sonar, on the documentation, on the communications, etc. So throughout the week or 10 days that we're on site, they're going to keep us really busy. I don't know of many expeditions that really make you really an essential part of the expedition. Without us, they will not complete the goal of documenting the entire shipwreck. So everybody has a role in that submersible or outside the submersible as well.
So I just want everybody to know that after Renata comes back and everyone else that's going on this expedition, we're going to put together a Monday night lecture on traveling to the Titanic and exploring the Titanic. So stand by for that one. And I know that, Renata, you actually have a question for Ken.
Yes. Ken, I've been to the New York Museum of Natural History, and there's a huge dinosaur that comes out of a door and out of another door. Is it that the same kind of dinosaur? Is that the same one that you found?
It's the same kind. It's not the same one. That's a species called Patagotitan. It's from northern Patagonia. And the one that you see in the museum is actually a composite of, I think it's 6 different individuals that they found. Dreadnoughtus that I worked on is from the very bottom of South America, and younger as well as that one. Dreadnoughtus is about 77 million years old. Still sounds old, but it's younger than some. And that's a single individual. And what was really exciting about Dreadnoughtus is that one individual was about 70% complete. And usually these giant dinosaurs are very incomplete, because you can imagine if you're trying to make the transition from the biosphere to the geosphere and you're as big as a house, well, it's very hard to cover all that body, all that skeleton, before weather erodes it away or scavengers pull it apart. So typically the bigger the dinosaur, the more incomplete the skeleton. And prior to Dreadnoughtus, the most complete of the supergiants was about 26% complete. And then we got that up to 70% with Dreadnoughtus. And one little tidbit for you, Renata, the Explorers Club flag that Bob Ballard had with him when he discovered the Titanic is the same flag that I had with me when I discovered Dreadnoughtus.
Awesome. Wow. I would have loved to have my hands on that flag one day.
Well, thank you. So now I have another question here. This is for Peter from Jenny. Did you find any paintings or religious artifacts in the caves? And Joe also wants to know, Peter, how many caves have you gone into?
I've lost count on the number of caves I've gone into. So I wish I could tell you, but it's been 20 years and many caves each year. And almost all the caves, we were guided there by the monks. I didn't know where the caves were, and you had to depend on the local people to get there. So our translator, the archaeology lady, Noah Wynn, contacted a few monks who then put us in touch with more monks, and they brought us to different places where they were all basically little temples inside these caves. So yes, there were lots of artifacts in the caves, and actually quite deep into the caves. You went sometimes, a 10 or 15-minute walk, and all of a sudden there's a big giant Buddha that they built in the cave, in the pitch black, with candles all around it. So,
while we have you on, did I hear something about you building a well in one of the areas that you were working in?
Yes, with Aleks was on the trip. Aleks filmed it all, and we did a water project in the village in Laos. They had no running water in the thing, and kids were carrying buckets down to the river. And in the documentary that Aleks produced, he explained very well about the dysentery that happens. And the village chief actually had 5 children die in the process between malaria and bad water. And so I drilled a well. We put a water tower up. I put plumbing into 50 houses. All 50 houses now have water. It's at least 4 kilometers of water pipe we put in, all buried. So everybody's got running water in that village. Thank you.
And if anybody wants to see that documentary or my other work, it's online at Rikhterman.com.
That was my next question to you, Aleks. So thank you very much for letting everybody know. And you have quite a few other documentaries on there as well. So I hope everybody tunes in to see some of those. I'm hearing, as you said, Nancy, there are a lot of people on this screen that have, aside from exploration, have done amazing work as far as humanitarian efforts. And whether it's Jeanne or Peter or Aleks, and I know Ken has as well, and probably Simon and all of you, certainly Pamela and Renata also. This is extraordinary. And the many talents that you have and what you've done for people is just outstanding. And I really want the audience to understand how far your reach is and what you've done.
And I'd like to piggyback on that too, and just talking about how it's just amazing to me that people who are, incidental explorers or purposeful explorers, whatever the case may be. It's been critical thinking and problem solving and innovation that has really touched the lives of so many people. And that has really been showcased tonight.
I could mention also for greenhouse warming, I did several projects with biogas where we take pig manure and cow manure and we make cooking gas, and people stop cutting down the forests and they use the gas from the animals to cook on, which makes the health of the people much better.
And I know Jeanne as well has been working on climate change as far as New York City goes. Jeanne, do you want to let people know what's in store for the future here?
A lot of confusion because new regulations are coming down in 2023, and then they're going to assess fines on buildings. But it's how they're evaluating the buildings, because a lot of buildings now get a rating, and people go, I'm getting a D rating. Every time I walk in my lobby, there's a sign that says a D rating. And people are saying, we got new windows in, we did this and that. What else do we have to do? And I think innovation and technology are really our hope, whether it's solar panels, strips in every window. And I've met people at the Explorers Club probably 4 or 5 years ago that were already working on such technology. So I think there needs to be a lot of innovation and change to help us through to achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Now I'm just going to go run over to Ken one more time. Ken, we were discussing earlier that maybe we can put together a field trip, and that would be wonderful to do. Do you want to explain to people what goes on in a field trip to your site?
Yeah, one of the great things about the Edelman Fossil Park is that, not only will we have this museum that will open in 2 years, but it's a place where the public can collect fossils for themselves. And so we have a layer where we research and we kind of manage and curate that very carefully. But we have layers above that, and everybody that comes to this site, every grown-up, every kid who's not afraid to get their hands dirty, finds a 65 million-year-old fossil with their own hands that they get to take home. And we've seen over and over that that's just a transformational experience for kids. When they make that connection between themselves and the Earth's past, they begin to see themselves as explorers. And that fossil that literally hasn't seen the light of day in 65 million years, that's an authentic discovery. That is a little piece of something that humans didn't know about before. So a kid of any age can make a real discovery there. And so later on in the year, in the summer, hopefully, we would like to have an Explorers Club trip there. We'll have to see what the COVID situation is, of course. But if the situation allows for it, we'd love to have some club members down to the quarry.
That would be spectacular. So I have 2 more questions. This one is for Pamela, and it is, do you have advice for how future expeditions can be more sustainable besides the obvious carbon footprint?
Yeah, obviously. First and foremost, I want to highlight that climate change is a symptom, is a result of a planet out of balance. And the source of the solution is humanity changing their lifestyles, humanity collaborating through different countries, educating youth. That is what I have been doing with great results. If youth does not have a relationship with Mother Earth or the planet, they do not see the urgency. So I do understand that learning and doing is one. Second, do local work. When Martin and I went on our honeymoon in Bali, we volunteered at the Green School. When we go to Pond Inland, we just ask local people what they need, what needs to be done. You have to start a dialogue first, see what their needs are, because they are the keepers of their land, and ask them. They know more about their ecology than we do because they live with the land, and sometimes it's a matter of life, of death. Include indigenous people in your research. That is something extremely important as well. blend traditional knowledge with science, elevate those knowledgeable people. And I think the board has done a tremendous job at the Explorers Club. Knock on the door of women. We have a whole different vibe than guys. Let women become leaders. This is the era of sustainable development. And the cornerstone of transformation is happening through the feminine, which is also in man, by the way. It's not exclusive to women. XY, anyone? So be inclusive, start dialogues from the heart and listen, really listen. And that is going to be the transformation of quite a bit of things.
Thank you. Before we go to the last question, I just wanted to say Karen Lynn is watching from Hawaii tonight. And Renata, she is thinking that you should be part of the Women's Divers Hall of Fame. So I think we all will agree with her, and we wish you lots of luck and hope that that's in your future. And Joe is saying to Alek, it's awesome that you found and followed your passion, and that's the same, and it goes to all of you. So here's a final question, and this can be read to everyone involved, and it's from Luna. Luna asks, question for all the speakers. The New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman once wrote about the changes brought by the pandemic, which divided our time to BC and AC. What are you inspired to do after the pandemic? So why don't we start, who did we start with tonight? I think we started with you, Ken. Go ahead, take it.
Well, you know, as horrible as the coronavirus pandemic has been, I'm kind of looking at it as a dress rehearsal for climate change and the biodiversity crisis, because things can get a lot worse if we don't get our hands around these two existential crises and solve them. And I think that we can learn a lesson from it, which is that, you know, things can go off the rails really fast. And that's the lesson of geology. If you learn to read the rocks, they will all say the same thing to you wherever you go in the world. And what they will say is that it didn't have to be this way. Everything in Earth history is totally contingent upon trillions and trillions of things happening in the right order and at the right moment. And the Earth doesn't need humans. The Earth was just fine before us, and it could be fine without us. So, you know, this isn't about saving, you know, cute, cuddly, charismatic species. This is about preserving our way of life, which is truly and literally endangered. And you know, I'm hoping that that we don't go back to normal. Normal had its problems, and this is a crossroads for us where we can really start to change the way that we do things. And I'm really heartened with some of the action that we're finally seeing now out of Washington to address the climate crisis, and we need to do the same for the biodiversity crisis. And we have no time to wait. We have, you know, we can't despair. We have to move, and we have to move fast, but there's no time to wait on these issues.
Thank you.
Wow, that was a mic drop right there.
Yes, certainly. I had asked you to play the drums. That would have been the perfect opportunity to do it. Before we go on to the next speaker to answer that question, I just want to remind everybody that on June 21st, you're going to be able to hear Ken's amazing drumming abilities, and he's played all over the world. So I really want you to tune in for that special evening. Let's move on to Simon to answer that same question.
Yeah, I think very similar to what Ken mentioned. You know, it really bring out, you know, the climate risk. You know, in my own world, I call it the ESG risk. So not only from an environmental standpoint, but also social, as we can see, you know, how the pandemic actually bring out the inequality of income, the background, you know, etc. You know, so it really brings out that, you know, we as a human society really need to start thinking about, you know, how can we be inclusive of others, you know, and how do we bridge the gap, you know, and not just thinking about the traditional, I would say, the capitalism primacies to more stakeholder share values. I think it's moving right now, and like Pamela is saying, we have to, all human beings has to start changing that mindset And we have started seeing that some of the folks, from the money managing, which is the asset manager, from BlackRock, to some of the pension fund, start thinking about, hey, if we're going to invest, we're going to invest in, diverse asset founders, or direct asset managers, and then corporation start actually, starting to say, hey, we really have to do some action on the ESG, and then consumer as a return start demanding that, guys, if you guys are not doing good, we're not going to buy from you guys. Obviously, it's still work in progress. It's not in perfection. We still have so much to do. But the pandemic, this, coronavirus, no one has able to predict that, because if you ask any corporate, from the internal audit group about, the enterprise risk, nobody would say that the pandemic is one of the major risks before 2020. Nowadays, people start thinking that, hey, if we don't change it, it can happen every single decade. It has not only a devastations to the bottom line, but also, just in general, just the entire economic system overall. So we all have to, pick up the actions on the environmental front, the climate risk, and also from the social risk perspective. So we really have to start, thinking about that. And I hope that, we all learn from this lesson and, do better on this.
Terrific answer, Simon. Alek?
For me, it's a renewed sense of urgency on telling the stories that I've already been wanting to tell, the stories of amazing Explorers Club members going on their expeditions to for archaeological means, to find out more species and more new fossils. Again, to learn more about the environment through my research station project. And so I've already been doing that before the pandemic, but with the pandemic, it's given me time to potentially partner up with new brands and companies that want to support my storytelling as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alek. Jeanne?
I used to, through my years of advocating on climate change, I didn't want to hammer people over the head, but I would be beating my head against the wall because it was so hard to get people to change their actions and move forward to address this climate emergency. But interesting that the pandemic has, for a lot of people, made a big reset and awareness. And even today, I had somebody calling me and saying about reducing carbon emissions from buildings in New York, which are a great source of carbon emissions. How do we go about it? How do we communicate? Let's figure out which groups I can bring you to. So I'm seeing this pick up more and more, and hopeful.
Terrific. Peter?
So obviously climate change is something that affects me and affects everybody on my expeditions. You see the drought that happens. I've heard stories of thousands of people dying in Vietnam in one of my expeditions. There's another project I started right as the COVID thing happened, and I'd like to continue that. That was actually in northern Laos. I haven't filmed any of that. Clearly, Myanmar is not going to be a place I'm going back to anytime soon. That's a whole nother mess, and I have contact with people on the ground which actually do make messages back and forth, and the stories are horrible, and they're not. You could read about them yourself. They're just awful stories. But this other project, I haven't figured out the math of why this works, but it's a way to pump water uphill using a kinetic energy method and without electricity. And it does work. I can't figure out the math yet about how it works. And until I figure out the math, I can't tell anybody about why. I could show them the video, but they'd say that's impossible. But it's actually a really cute pumping method that somebody in the third world figured out, and it lets you just bring water up only 1 atmosphere at a time. So you have to do multiple steps, but you could bring water up to 1 atmosphere at a time. It's really amazing.
Fabulous, Peter. Pamela, you want to continue on?
This is such a great dialogue. Oh my goodness. As Ken had said, back to normal. Well, I'm sorry, but normal for humans is abnormal for Mother Earth, is abnormal for our planet. So my priorities are to amplify the voice of Mother Earth through that wisdom card deck that I briefly showed. That's called Elements. The decade of ecosystem restoration, the United Nations, there's a whole new decade starting next month. I want to belong and contribute to that, obviously, because I have a curriculum for youth, companies, and colleges that is a fit. And then there's the Eco Hero Challenge for people who know about the Go Green Brooklyn initiative. They have a website. My call for participation is on that, the Eco Hero Challenge. It's to teach kids, it's to teach companies, it's to teach the mindset shift that I previously mentioned about. To open humanity's heart towards nature is my biggest mission next. And of course, a new expedition to Greenland to make another documentary on Inuit and Narwhal. And there's so much more. Just follow me on Instagram and you'll see what I'm doing, and join me too.
Absolutely. And Renata, you want to finish off here?
Sure. I think this pandemic has made us realize how frail the world is, how frail each one of us is, our family. Realize that we really don't need to travel that much to see each other, to see what's important. We don't need to buy that many clothes. We can work from home and to connect with what's important in our lives. Follow our dreams, fulfill our dreams. What to do after the pandemic? I'm going to Titanic.
Sounds terrific. Nancy, do you want to tell us what's coming up next?
Yes, next Thursday, we have the Canada chapter being highlighted with chapter chair George Karunas. So we'll look forward to seeing all of you back there again. I want to thank our presenter so much for the time and energy you put into preparing and delivering your talks. I hate that we had to give you such a short timeline. We need to give everybody an opportunity to have their own show. This was great. I learned so much, and the dialogue itself was really insightful. So thank you guys for putting your heart and soul into this. And thank you for what you've done to pull this presentation together. And of course, behind the scenes, the voice of God, Kevin Murphy, making things work well for everybody. Thank you, Kevin, for your dedication there.
I just want to also reiterate, of course, thank you to every single person on this panel, and to you, Nancy, and to Kevin as well. I wanted to let everyone know that this Monday we have another incredible lecture by one of our Explorers Club 50 members, Mark Hannaford, who'll be speaking on extreme medicine. So I hope you'll all tune in for that. And let me just throw this at you, Ken. Would you want to drum us out of here for the evening?
Sure, I can do that.
So here's a preview of what's coming up in June. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on Monday. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.